Perth is still hot in 2025, with houses selling in a median of around 8 days. Why was this property on the market for hundreds of days? Do 32 Bates Way, Warnbro.
I know this area very, very well. We've been here for a very long time. We've seen it grow a lot.
This episode, together with property investor and founder of Housefinder, Simon Liu, we pull apart a property from your comments to find out, is this a diamond in the rough that everyone's missing, or is there a reason so many have passed on this deal?
The condition needs to be improved, especially if you were to rent it out. It's not a bad house, just looking at it on face value.
To answer the question, is this actually the deal everyone's been missing or no deal?
Pretty good comparables looking at what a house like this would rent for. However, the caveat is...
We checked out a property in Warnbro about 6 months ago with Simon, but nothing like this. These days on market are insane. And whilst the property has sold since recording, which is a whole nother conversation, this episode is going to teach you a lot about how even in a hot market, it's so important to understand your prices and be able to really spot value as a property investor. My name's Todd Sloan. This is the Pizza and Property Podcast, and this episode is powered by Suburbs Finder, House Finder, and Palladium Partners. More about our amazing show sponsors in the show notes below. Right now, let's jump straight into this episode with Simon Liu. Deal or no deal time again. Simon Liu, how you going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Man, I'm good. This is an interesting one. This has been actually coming from a comment from Lockie Samuel. And now we've actually done Warnbro just recently, not too long ago, I think. And this is what it's actually come off of the back of.
Oh, okay.
Do 32 Bates Way, Warnbro. Lenny's got, do you call that looky face? Looky eyes, cryy face emoji?
Looky face, as in like maybe he's invest, maybe it's his house.
Possibly.
Who wants my opinion on it? You never know.
It's been up for ages. And let's look at this one, because I just looked at the days on market before and it's like 280 something days at the time of recording. Now this may have sold by the time this goes to air, don't know. Why don't we actually have a start with the property itself and start pulling this apart?
All right, 32 Bates Way, Warnbro. Look, preface, I know this area very, very well. Right, we've been here for a very long time buying properties. We've seen it grow a lot, and I'm pretty familiar with certain sides and what's good and what's not, that kind of thing. So anyway, let's check out the listing first of all. So this is the property.
Yep.
32 Bates Way, Warnbro. Looks like an early 90s, maybe late 80s, kind of like a build. Offers over 650, 3-bed, 1 bath, saying 2 garage, but I can only see a driveway, and it looks like at some point whatever garage used to be there may have been converted into extra living space, but maybe we'll find that out a little bit later on.
Yeah, okay.
728 square meters, really good size block.
Doesn't look too bad from the front.
Doesn't look too bad from the front. You got these security shutters, which definitely adds to the visual appeal of any house. I'm joking there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think your sarcasm was like dialed up enough there.
Very monotonous with the way I'm being sarcastic. But not a bad spot. You're 1, 2, 3 and a bit streets away from the beach.
Yeah, okay.
Walking distance.
Very much walking distance.
I would say.
Yeah.
Nice stroll through some of these back streets and you're right at the beach. So it's a pretty good block, pretty good size block. Not much side access though, which isn't really that much of a problem. You can't really subdivide these houses anyway, but... Is that tree in this yard or is that hanging over, you reckon? I would say it's in this one because the block ends here.
Yeah,
so the majority of that
canopy's there.
On the block. But even now, just looking at it, you can kind of tell that it's got all this crap everywhere. It kind of looks like a house that's been lived in pretty rough. Right, I haven't even looked inside it, nothing yet, but just looking at all the little bits of rubbish and toys or whatever, garden crap or tires.
It's not looking loved.
It's not looking like a loved property.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And there are, even though you said it kind of looked decent, it just doesn't look like a property that's been like owned by someone that's, proud. So yeah, it just looks like a standard house, right? Nothing too special about it. Now let's click on it a little bit more, see some pictures. Okay, very standard living area. Number one, whoever's marketing this house can probably do a little bit better doing the pictures. This looks like a picture that's been taken on a phone with very little maybe care about what they're taking. No blinds, strangely. All this kind of scaffolding and there's a bit of paint here.
In defense of the agent, and as a former agent, sometimes you did actually get properties that just had tenants. It was super difficult, but I see what you mean. Like the difference between a well-presented property and a property that's presented very averagely can be tens of thousands of dollars easily.
I mean, we'll find out if this is an owner-occupied property or a tenanted property. All right, a lot of mess, a lot of random, there's guitars. I'm not judging stuff, but usually when you see really odd things lying in the middle of a living room or kitchen or whatever, you kind of get the feeling that whoever's living there is not a homely person.
Well, they're pole
Shall I
dancing
say.
by the look of it.
It's got this beautiful pole. This is not a pole dance as much as you'd like it to be, Todd. Actually, I don't even know what it's called, like the official term, but it's there to hold up the ceiling.
Zoom in just so we can see that a little bit better.
There we go.
That looks like an ACO prop, like a
ACO prop?
Yeah. So that's holding the roof up.
Yeah, so clearly it's something that's holding it up. You can tell here that there's some water stains. So I reckon there's probably some issues with the roof or the ceiling.
Yep.
And that can be part of the reason why it's been online for so long, because whoever's made an offer and maybe have had it accepted, they've gone ahead and done some inspections and they found obviously something not too good. So they terminated or they pulled out, or maybe the seller doesn't want to fix it. That's a problem that we see quite a lot of.
Obviously, a few more questions you'd be definitely asking the agent.
Yeah, 100%. And, take what you hear from the agent with a grain of salt. Definitely do your own research. I dare say after 287 days, the agent's going to be pretty eager to get rid of it. So they may be pushed to that point where they just try and not be super obvious or super clear about what may be not right with the house. So just be a little bit careful here.
Okay.
Next picture. Look, it's been lived in pretty rough. You can see all the little stains and marks here. Look, general consensus is it's just not a well looked after a house.
It's like scribbles on the walls.
Scribbles on the walls. Yep. Look, I mean, kids, whatever, right? Like I've got kids, they do kid damage everywhere. It's really not something you can avoid. But
Fred hasn't started doing that yet. We haven't given him texters.
He hasn't yet?
No.
You'll see.
It's coming.
You'll see.
Okay.
But, I guess a reasonable person or a household may want to think about cleaning it up, especially if you're planning to take some pictures to sell the place.
Yeah.
I think it would only make sense that at least, the guy could have just aimed the camera slightly up higher like this and then it would be, maybe problem solved.
Or just taking a step inwards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Open the blinds. It looks like the Blair Witch Project or something. It's just this gone in with like a flashlight and a camera trying to find paranormal activity.
Already, I remember that movie. Already looking at the answer for Lockie's questions, like presentation straight up is one of the big problems. Like look at the paint, like the cutting in. There is no cutting in. It's just like painted up. Like
this also looks like a very small room.
Yeah.
This is a kid's bed and it's already taking up most of the room. And look at this. Like these are little things you look at, right? Like whoever painted this wall literally just opened a can of paint and just started painting. Like to fix like that little bit up there, it would take literally seconds of putting a tape or something, or even just a little bit more care with a brush.
You'd pick up a shoreline edger from Bunno's, you could fix that in 20 seconds.
Yeah. Man, I feel really judgmental.
Yeah, I feel like we're just giving a shit now. Okay, so I reckon
now that we're recording it, look, we all analyze properties this way, right? Let's be real.
Yeah.
But now that we're recording it and talking to each other, and obviously all the listeners and viewers.
But 280 days on market, man. We're not the only ones that are thinking this way. Otherwise, it would have been gone.
Yeah.
But looking at this,
all right, this is definitely a house lived in. Oh, I'm not going to say definite, but this will be a fairly safe stereotype. Fishing rods in the middle of the dining room.
Is that another guitar?
Another guitar. This guy loves fishing and also playing music. Outdoor actually looks kind of nice, this area.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Kind of enclosed.
Nice deck.
Just make sure that's all kind of done properly and approved. Backyard, look, it's basically not maintained. You can still see all this rubbish here growing here. Look, it's not a bad house. Just looking at it on face value.
I'm not actually seeing that tree though. That big tree that we saw before. That might actually be in the neighbours.
Maybe. But maybe it's literally right behind this guy.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe he did avoid it. There we go.
Yeah, okay.
That's right here behind the shed. All right, so not the best presented property. Definitely questions about the structural integrity of the property. So that's one that would be like a bit of a question mark thing there. I know Warnbro very well, so I know what prices and what houses are selling for. And for a house, just looking at through the pictures, if they're after offers over 650, I think it is maybe at the higher end of what a house like this should normally sell for. And I'm talking retail, as in like on market. Because even just looking at, let's say that structural issue plus all the cosmetic stuff that you can see, to dress up a house like this, you're looking at maybe 20 grand, something like that.
And then depending on
of a starting.
What the structural issue is
depending on what it is, depending on whether the seller's willing to come to the party to fix it as well.
Yep.
So that's, let's say you get it for 660 plus the 20, you're looking at like 680. And for context, one of the recent ones, I guess, that we purchased in this area was a 4-bedder, 2 bath, 2 garage. Not as big of a block, but let's say like a 500-ish square meter block. And I think we paid about $650 for that.
Extra bathroom, extra bedroom.
Further from the beach, not as good as the location in Warnbro, but it gives you some context as to what is available and what's selling. And, you know, for something like this, I think offers above $650 immediately will be a little bit too overpriced.
Can I ask you to open up a little bit more building inspections, negotiations with vendors? Because it works differently in Perth. So if someone's from Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, like they might be expecting it to work the same way.
Yeah.
Can you kind of bring a bit of clarity to that?
It's trade secrets here, Todd. I'm not sure if I should be revealing this, but your standard building and pest and your finance conditions, which is typically accepted. We have, since we started buying in Perth about 4 years ago, because all my client or our investors, they're all typically interstate. So they don't get to see the property, especially off-market properties, before they make an offer. We will typically include a due diligence condition, which is only 5 days normally. And 5 business days is enough for us to get our guy out, do a full sort of visual, take proper pictures of everything good and bad. And we make that call as to kind of like a supercharged Saturday open home, if you will. And that visual inspection, if it comes back with some very obvious defects or it's trashed or whatever, we would just walk away, right? At that point, there's no financial obligation to continue with the purchase of the property in WA. The reason why we have the due diligence is because in WA, if you have a building and pest report, and this catches a lot of buyers out, right? People assume that if they have a building and pest condition and they do the building and pest inspection and they don't like what they see, they can walk away. You can't do that in WA. In WA, you have to give the seller, if there's any major structural defects, so there's 2 types of defects with building and pests. You got the minor stuff and then you got the major stuff, and obviously termites and pests and so on. With the major stuff, the seller has the right to fix whatever it is, right? Properly fix it before settlement. And if they don't fix it, then you can terminate, right? Or they may come to you and say, you know what, I don't want to fix it, but I'm going to give you some money off. And if you accept, then you can continue with the purchase. But if not, then you're basically shit out of luck, right?
But that dance has to happen.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, imagine if you bought a property, maybe like this one, with no due diligence, and you're from Sydney or wherever, and you get to the building and pest point, and then you discover all these cosmetic and minor issues that you can't do anything about, right? If that roof issue is considered major structural, then yes, the seller will have to fix it, but he can basically leave everything else, you know, and you're
stuck.
Thousands of dollars worth of maintenance, right? So it's really important to cover yourself. There is one other condition in WA called the working order condition. And that basically means that any electrical, plumbing or gas related items needs to be in working order before settlement. And this could be things as small as like a light bulb that's blown. It could be leaking taps, air cons. You know, these are some of the common ones. And we've had quite a lot of these. If there's like a shower where the plumbing inside the shower is the cause of like high moisture readings, that also needs to be addressed. And so little things like that.
Is that picked up in a pre-settlement inspection or that comes from the building inspection?
Yeah. So at the pre-settlement inspection, what you should do is you obviously list all these items, you know, what the seller is obligated to do. And at the pre-settlement, make sure it's done. If it's not done, you can potentially delay settlement, or you can come to an agreement, like a financial further discount.
Hold X dollars back.
For you to fix it and this and that. So there are some legal nuances, which I won't get into, about the pre-settlement and settlement and what you're allowed to hold back in terms of delaying settlement, because sometimes you're not allowed to. Like, for example, if the house has a few items left, like a couch or whatever, typically that wouldn't be grounds to delay settlement until they remove it, right? Even though legally they're obligated to still remove the rubbish. But as you can imagine, after the property settled, it becomes a bit of is he going to come back to get rid of it? And if he isn't, how do we get him to come back? You're not really going to spend thousands of dollars on lawyers to try and get someone back to remove a couch, you know? So there's all these little things that, unfortunately, what's that term called? Buyer beware.
Yep.
So yeah, it is what it is.
Okay, but this is exactly why I wanted you to open it up though, because I think it's so important to understand that every state has their nuances and the nuances on top of them.
Yeah.
But it's something where someone that was maybe just operating off the idea of it's okay, I'll just use the BMP clause.
Yeah.
It's like doesn't quite work that way.
No,
and especially with a property like this where there's work that needs to be done.
Yeah. And it's equally as confusing because, you know, with a lot of states, you can terminate if the building and pest is unsatisfactory. You know, you can just walk away typically. Well, there's other avenues to walk away. But in WA, it's buying property in WA is a lot more skewed towards the seller, right, in terms of the liabilities and the obligations and so on. So you just got to be a bit careful. And
you can't even do it in the cooling off period the way that you do in South Australia, like because there is no cooling off period the same way.
I never rely on cooling off periods at all. right? Because in most states, if you do terminate on cooling off, you do have to pay you lose a bit of a deposit.
That was 0.25.
Yeah, that kind of a thing.
Yep.
In any case, most cooling off periods are just simply not long enough for you to do proper due diligence, right? And, with the whole 5 business day thing, sometimes we extend it, if we can't get access to the house and this and that. Every house is different. It's the way you negotiate. It's the way how you close these deals at the end of the day. But, just whatever you do, just make sure you cover your bases so that you have opportunities to not have to commit if there is something genuinely wrong with a property that you're making an offer on.
All right, man. So as far as location's concerned, this one's pretty good.
Good location, house bit questionable,
Yep.
asking price a little bit too high based on the condition of the property. Yeah, I think definitely the condition needs to be improved, especially if you were to rent it out. And yeah.
Can we take a look at the cash flow?
Sure. So this is the basic sort of cash flow analysis for the property. And a full disclaimer, this isn't the one that we use internally at House Finder. This is from a company called Suburbs Finder. So my apologies if I'm not as smooth looking and scrolling down.
You're all good.
But look, typical 20% deposit, LVR. You've got your deposit, you've got your stamp duty, solicitor. I think you can probably get away with cheaper. Most of the deals that we do are around about the sort of $2,000. It's always better to be pleasantly surprised rather than
Horribly surprised.
Horribly surprised, yeah. If you get away with $2,000, then you get a $1,500 bonus, I guess, mentally. So, this is the all-in purchase cost to buy the property.
So what would it actually rent for?
Yeah, cool. Let's check it out. So we've got, looking at Warnbro, this is filtered with 3 beds and houses, obviously, in the area. There's only 5 properties for rent, which is really good. That means the demand is pretty high. The vacancy rate, I believe, is only around about the 1%. Well,
pretty low.
1 to 2%, something like that. So it's quite low.
Yep.
You've got 5 3-bedroom houses. This one is for $550 per week, $590, $600, $600, and then there's a $650. Now, it's important to note that houses that are closer to the beach or walking distance to the beach typically get a much, much higher rent, right? So we do have to take that into account. And looking at all these houses, they pretty much tick that box. Yeah. Right, more or less. So they're pretty good comparables in terms of looking at what a house like this would rent for. However, the caveat is that the house that we were looking at had problems, right? So, as is, if you were to, let's say, fix a structural issue and you just tried to rent it out as just the way it looks, you're probably looking at pretty low rent. I'd say probably below $600 per week. But if you spend a little bit of money to repaint, clean it up a little bit, you've got this one here, which I think is a pretty good comparable. Actually, this one is probably not a bad one to look at.
Is that a pink house?
No, it's a typical red brick kind of like a property. Not, I wouldn't say red. What is it? Like skin color?
More of a cinnamon pearl.
Cinnamon pearl. Right. That's exactly what they called it back in the 90s when they built this property. But this is a very similar house. Yeah, very, very similar. I think this one's probably even slightly nicer, visually, I guess you can say. And, this one's up for $600 a week. So I reckon around 600.
Okay. After a tidy up.
Yeah, after a tidy up. So, that's kind of what you'd be expecting. So here, rent in the calculator, $600 a week. Rental yield about 4.7, 5%-ish.
So what price did you put in? Like what are you going to need to get this at?
In terms of to make it viable?
Yeah, to make it viable. Not for much like this is under market, this is a deal. Like where would be like it should have been sold by now money?
Look, for that, I think we need to look at some comparable sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm bouncing us around a little bit, but I'm just feeling like if we're going to be putting the cash flow together.
Yeah. So let's have a look. Warnbro. Sold house, 3-bed, sold date last month. Bathrooms, let's just leave all of that. Click on search. We'll do map. So we can see, okay, cool. There's 3 houses here that sold kind of in similar proximity to the beach and this and that. This one, 670. Let's have a look at this one. This one, 680. Look at this one. And then this one, 870. This one is very close to the beach. Okay. That might be what we call an anomaly. Let's look at the 871 first. Galway Gardens. This one's very, very close to the beach. I would say, you're basically like you're 3 streets away.
Yeah.
It's not 3 streets, 3 houses away.
Yeah.
So you're basically, it's almost right at your front door.
How big's a block?
570 only. But a 322, so the specs of the house is much higher. The other one I think was only 3.1 and then imaginary garages.
Yep.
Actually, no. Looking back at it, I think it was a shed. Maybe that's what they considered the parking.
Possibly, yeah.
But it's a very sort of
It's
on
not
the
a
on the
garage.
border. But no, it looks like for a much more cared for house. It's original, but looks like it's been looked after very well.
You can tell Nan's vacuumed the carpet a couple of times a week.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Without trying to stereotype, but that, even though that's what we've been doing this entire time, you can see that these beautiful, beautiful curtains or whatever that you call them.
I think they're the pelmets.
The what?
Pelmet.
The pelmet. Okay, cool. The pelmet. Yeah, 870. I think this one was very recent, August as well. I would say this is like a little bit far-fetched, right? So I reckon we can probably ignore this. Now this one looks kind of similar, to be honest. You got your 3 beds, you got 1 bath, 1 garage, 728. Yeah, look, this one looks fairly similar. I'm going to take a guess that the condition, however, is a little bit nicer, which I think is true. Even if you disregard the sort of staged furniture, it does look a lot tidier. The kitchen
looks
quite
nice.
a lot nicer.
Yeah.
You've got the rooms, relatively new floors. Yeah, I mean, it's just a tidier property. The bathroom's renovated laundry as well.
That's done.
Look, I mean, the backyard, I don't know what this is. It could be a bit of tidier, but I would say this is probably a much nicer physically looking property than this one.
And what did that sell for?
This one sold for $680.
680.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. So McCormick, very similar. You might be a little bit like this is Bates. So you're literally like, couple of houses
street
away.
back, yeah.
So I would say fairly similar. However, if I bought this house and I had to spend 20 grand to get this house to this level of McCormick Street in Warnbro, I wouldn't want to do that for free. I want an upside. Otherwise, I could just spend 680 on this house in 24 McCormick Warnbro and do absolutely nothing.
When it's a leverage 680 as well, as much as you're technically spending
leverage. No, there's no risk. There's no time. There's no effort. So I would say for Bates, if let's say I use this one as a direct comparison, knowing that I have to spend 20 grand to get it up to speed to this kind of level, I probably want maybe at least a 20 grand plus upside for me. Right, so 680 minus let's say 40 odd $1,000, that would bring it down to about 640 ish. So I think fair market value for something like this would be around about the 640/650.
Okay.
Right, so offers above 650, I think you're starting to get into not worth it kind of a territory. That's the comparables in terms of sales.
So if we go back to the cash flow then, so if we're putting in 640 as a buy price then?
640, and if I scroll down, you've got your council rates, insurances, building, property maintenance, property management's 9.9%. Guys, in WA, it's a lot higher. Bear that in mind. Interest only 6.5%. Your negative cash flow around 10 grand a year, and that's not taking into account the $20,000 that you're gonna have to spend on it
Just to clean it up and get it back to,
correct. So in my view, totally not worth it. If this house was maybe around about the 600 mark, if I could nab it for that, then yes, I would probably consider it as a potential deal.
So in answer to Lockie's question, why has it been on the market for so long? Like putting more of your sales agent hat on, because I'm looking at this with the whole price, presentation, promotion. Are you looking at it through the same lens or are you looking at this differently?
I think it's overpriced. Simple as that. Okay, it's the way it's been marketed hasn't been great.
Yep.
There's obvious problems with the property, so there's a big question mark, and it's a little bit overpriced, and it's been online for so long. It's stale. When a property goes online for a long time, it naturally gets a lot less inquiries because people immediately assume that there's something wrong with the property.
And then having something propping up the ceiling
Yeah, and
as
if
well.
you look at it, I mean, even if it was a stripper pole, I don't think that would make the assumption on the property any better. Not saying stripping's bad, but it's
Let's leave that one alone.
yeah, exactly. It's a different kind of show. But yeah, anyway, that's what I think.
Okay, so as far as is it a deal? No at this price, but if you could nab it in the high 5, low 6s, maybe.
High 5, low 6s, maybe.
Yep.
The good thing is the block size. The good thing is it's relatively close to the beach, but everything else is a bit of a question mark.
All right, so if you can get this high 5s, low 6s, but it's Perth. We're recording this later 2025. Surely it's getting close to done, mate. Are you even buying there now?
Yeah, 100% we are. It's grown. Like everyone's been saying, it hasn't grown. It's not grown, stopped. And I've been hearing this for over 12 months now. But every single statistic out there or data suggests that Perth has grown, depending on what you read and what you look at, anywhere between 6% to 20%, right, in the past 12 months alone. And it's actually higher for units. And this tells me that there is that underlying demand of humans that still moving to Perth en masse and there's competing for these houses, right? Let's assume a lot of investors have left the market because they think that it's already grown, which it has, right?
Yep.
Then why is the market still rising? So it's got to be just a lot of people still needing houses to live in. And you can see why. You know, these houses that we just analyzed, that close to the beach, you know, 3-4 bedroom houses, good blocks, right? Even if you bought Bates and you had to spend some money on it, where else can you achieve that in Australia? It's unachievable. Almost the last place that you can still do that with all the lifestyle, and Warnbro's around about 45 minutes to the city, you know, on a good day, good traffic, that kind of a thing. Once these houses that are very affordable now and quite scarce to find anywhere else in Australia, once they start to get to a point where it becomes unaffordable for the average income earner, then it's going to hit a glass ceiling of growth.
Got it. Okay, so you're still looking at Perth going, whilst it's had a huge boom, and people have been saying it's done for the past 12 months, then it's done depending on whereabouts in Perth, anywhere between 10 and 20%. So it's like clearly it hasn't been done for the past 12 months.
Yeah.
And because of the affordability levels, you're feeling it's still not done.
This is a much, much bigger conversation because this happened in Sydney in 2015. It grew for about 5 or so years and then it went stagnant, and then everyone thought the market was done. What Perth has gone through recently is just a lot of people now having to get used to the fact that this is the new normal. Because these Warnbro houses not very long ago were selling for $300,000 or $400,000, right? And now they're 600. That takes a lot of time for people to go, okay, this is the new reality. But once that's set in stone, then it's kind of just keeps pushing forward from there.
So answering the question as a whole then, Simon, is it a deal or no deal?
This is not a deal.
No, I didn't think so.
Definitely not, no.
We've got to make one that's actually a deal soon, because I think you turn them all down.
Can I say that, like, just means I'm an astute investor, right? If I said yes to everything, I don't think I'd be on this show.
Simon Lou from House Finder. I'm always enjoying these episodes. And if you guys have got a question as well, whether it's a comment that we're actually making into an episode, or if you just want to send us a DM, email, however you want to do it. Yeah, always keen to put one of these in front of Simon and actually pull it apart and see if it's a deal or no deal. But Simon Lou from House Finder, thank you again for jumping on the show, man.
Good to be here.